Hi, I'm here today to talk to you about the myofascial lines. So I'm going to talk about the superficial front line, the superficial back line, the lateral line, the spiral line, and I'm going to talk about just the overall postural movement functions of each of them and the movement functions of each of them. And then I'm going to talk about the functional lines of the superficial back line and the superficial front line. So I'm going to start by talking about the superficial front line. So the postural function of the superficial front line is to balance the superficial back line, and the movement function of the superficial front line is flexion at the trunk, hip extension at the knee, and dorsiflexion at the foot. The superficial back line overall postural function is to support the body in full upright extension, and the overall movement function of the superficial back line is extension and hyperextension. So the overall movement function of the superficial back line is extension and hyperextension. The lateral line is postural function is to balance your front and your back, but more or less bilaterally balance your left and right sides of your body. The movement function of the lateral line, a lateral flexion of your trunk, hip abduction at the hip, and eversion at your foot, and it also has a function of lateral and rotational movement at your trunk. So it has some rotational movements too. And just a second, I'm going to talk about the spiral line here. So the spiral line here is the postural or the overall movement function of the spiral line is to keep the body in eccentric and isometric contraction to keep your trunk and legs from folding in and rotational collapse. So it's to stop rotational collapse of your body. And it actually goes through all three planes of the body, and it actually goes through all three of the lines. So it goes through the superficial front line, the superficial back line, the lateral line, and it actually causes some dysfunction. So the spiral line actually causes some dysfunction in all the other lines because it actually affects some of the functions of the other lines. So it's not bad, but it is sometimes, it affects it sometimes. But it's not the spiral line isn't like a bad thing. We all need it, but it does actually have some dysfunction to it. And then I'm going to talk about the functional lines of the superficial front line and the superficial back line. So the superficial front line, we want to get all back here, and we want to get some body momentum, and we want to get back in your extension and contraction, and then all of a sudden it'll just, when you throw it, like, so think of throwing an arch, like doing archery, you come back and you go like that, so the body has it all, you just go, and then all of a sudden the body switches and it goes, so you go eccentric and then contraction. And so that's the cool part about the functional line of the superficial back line. That is the functional line of the superficial back line. So we want, sorry about that, I cleared that up. I meant the superficial back line. That's, so think of throwing an arch and you come back, you go extension and contraction. So it actually, you switch. So you go from contraction to, or eccentric contraction to contract. So we want to go eccentric contraction. So it's like a switch. But then the superficial front line functional line is actually like, I think of actually like serving a tennis ball. Is you go vertically and you go as fast as you can, but it's just all contraction there. It's just, you go and then you just come down. So you just start, throw the ball up, and it's just boom. So it's just one. As is the superficial back line, you go both. You get both in there. Your body goes and there. So you're actually switching, and so there's more to the superficial backline functional line than there is to the superficial front line functional line, because it's just serving, you're just up and fast, right down. That's so, and there's more to the functional lines of the superficial back line than there is to the superficial front line. I hope that you were able to understand what I was meaning about the functional lines of the superficial back line and the superficial front line. I know it was hard for me to explain, but I hope you got what I was trying to say about the functional lines there. And that's that I got the movements of the superficial front line, the superficial back line, the lateral line, and the spiral line. And I hope you understood what I was trying, my explanation of the functional lines of the superficial back line and the superficial front line. Thank you, and thank you.